Friday, 21st of February 2020. Right as dawn was approaching, Manchester Airport started coming alive. Groups of families hurried past the entrance gates, and workers in bright safety vests directed drivers toward valet spots. Handovers of keys happened smoothly, with everything seeming normal. Yet, as aircraft took off from the tarmac, another kind of activity was stirring as well. It would take weeks for authorities to understand that this wasn't just a simple parking error. It marked the start of a web extending well outside Manchester. Fast forward to a chilly dawn in October 2024, when the calm roads of Oldham began to buzz once more. Tucked in a section of an aged factory in Oldham, automobiles lay partially taken apart beneath harsh, fluorescent bulbs. It resembled a typical repair shop until you noticed the empty hulls stacked along the side, awaiting processing. The individuals involved were new, but the routine mirrored the old one. They referred to their group as 50, and by the time the rest of the town stirred, their activities were in full swing. This narrative explores the Manchester Airport valet fraud and the way a broken-down syndicate silently revived itself with greater efficiency and influence. Welcome to Truth Unraveled. Let's dive right into the details. Manchester Airport, beginning of 2020. Initial complaints trickled in subtly, with a few vacationers coming back to discover their vehicles gone. At the outset, terminal personnel thought it was an internal oversight. However, in a matter of days, the trend became undeniable. Scores of cars, all entrusted to external valet providers, had disappeared completely. The setup was straightforward, which made it so effective. Bogus valet businesses popped up on the internet, promoting rates lower than the airport's official options. Their sites looked authentic, packed with emblems, booking confirmations, and reviews lifted from real firms. On site, their staff blended in perfectly. Safety vests, logoed badges, and documents stamped with the airport's branding. They greeted clients at designated drop areas, collected the keys, and drove off the cars right under surveillance cameras. It all appeared routine. What the owners were unaware of was that the vehicles never reached any parking lot. Almost immediately, they were rerouted via back streets to the edges of Greater Manchester, zones such as Oldham, Chadderton, and Radcliffe. These spots, filled with closed factories and warehouse areas, would eventually play a pivotal role in one of the area's biggest auto theft probes. The pilfered cars weren't chosen haphazardly. Authorities eventually discovered deliberate selection of premium brands that were simple to flip or break down for components. Range Rovers, BMWs, Audis, Porsches, and Mercedes. A lot were taken on demand, matching exact shades or specifications desired by international clients. After leaving the airport premises, every vehicle was transported to a short-term storage facility, and the events that unfolded there will be disclosed shortly. By the point when travellers returned to the UK and inquired about their cars, the automobiles were either disassembled or en route elsewhere. Law enforcement observed the high level of expertise in the process. No triggered alerts, no evidence remaining. This wasn't casual cruising or spur-of-the-moment grabs. It was a streamlined supply chain. The initial confirmed connection between the absent airport cars and Manchester's criminal syndicates surfaced only after several months. We'll cover that soon. By that stage, the system was growing, transforming what started as a parking ploy into a multi-million-pound shipping operation. The probe into Manchester's vanished airport vehicles quickly exposed a much more complex setup than anticipated. As police followed the trail of the first retrieved car to a warehouse in Oldham, they identified the label that would underpin the whole scheme: Asif Hussain. Officially, Hussain seemed like an entrepreneur. His firm, German Automotive 365 Limited, was listed at a basic location, and described as a supplier of auto components. Amid the health crisis, it had secured a state relief loan, but we'll address that further on. For the investigators, the documentation served merely as a disguise. In truth, it tied straight to a flow of pilfered cars being broken down and readied for shipment abroad. Collaborating with him was Hadier Ali, who oversaw routine tasks from the workshops and factory spaces the team controlled. His signature was on lease contracts for multiple locations. One key site was at Stockfield Mill in Chadderton. There, officials subsequently uncovered disassembled Land Rovers, duplicated pieces, and remnants of frame identifiers sanded off to conceal origins. The broader crew functioned like an assembly process. Sajid Jangaria dealt with car collections, frequently observed shifting newly taken vehicles among facilities, while Taub Hasnain managed coordination in Greater Manchester, securing spaces, transferring gear, and keeping each location ahead of law enforcement scrutiny. Ibra Shafi, on the other hand, handled the finances. We'll examine his crucial position in the entire setup shortly. As detectives sifted through devices confiscated from the members, the blueprint emerged. Texts treated cars like inventory orders, detailing particular types, hues, and model years sought by purchasers. Communications positioned the same gadgets close to theft locations throughout Manchester and Cheshire. And upon examining export records, it showed a phony shipping entity, KG Logistics, employed to reserve cargo under falsified business profiles. Once authorities pieced it together, the magnitude was irrefutable. What originated with a few absent airport vehicles had evolved into a chain of factories, depots, and shippers. The initial major advancement in the inquiry didn't stem from an informant or admission, but from tech silently monitoring the highways. Greater Manchester Police's license plate scanning network started identifying cars listed as missing from the airport's valet setups. Soon after, some of those identical plates resurfaced, now spotted on cameras along paths heading to Chadderton and Radcliffe. Both districts were no strangers to detectives. They had been linked for years to minor disassembly operations, workshops that took apart stolen autos before traces could be followed. The sites were picked intentionally, packed groups of buildings, tight entry lanes, and ample background sounds from adjacent shops to drown out the noise of machinery slicing metal. Observation units were positioned, and soon investigators spotted a routine. During daylight, the doors remained closed, occasionally for extended periods. Then, deep into the evening, illumination sparked up. Delivery trucks arrived at the entrances, and automobiles, some still fresh from travel, were guided indoors. Come daylight, all signs vanished. When agents eventually accessed one workshop via search order, the meticulousness of the activity stood out. Vehicles were broken down in mere hours. Tags and locators were promptly removed. Motors were marked, coded with transport identifiers, and packaged for dispatch. Even the casings, the stripped skeletons of former luxury rides, were managed, compressed into waste before daybreak to wipe out their histories. 3 distinct storage buildings were quickly pinpointed as elements of the identical scheme. One at Stockfield Mill, another on a business park close to Radcliffe, and a third associated with rented storage under pseudonyms. Whenever police pursued lease documents or billing statements, the path looped to the same group of individuals, all employing alternate identities, communal devices, and bogus papers. It marked the first occasion when investigators could visualize the entire system from start to finish. What had begun as a puzzle at Manchester Airport was now charted throughout Greater Manchester's manufacturing core, and every link directed to Asif Hussain's team. By the start of 2021, extended periods of monitoring, device reviews, and money tracking had pushed the inquiry to a critical stage. Agents from Greater Manchester Police's Autocrime Division and the area-wide syndicate unit organised a string of early morning actions. A raid meant to hit various spots simultaneously and block alerts to accomplices. The initial breaches occurred shortly past 5 a.m. in Oldham, with parallel entries at business zones in Wigan and Stockport. Personnel advanced swiftly, aided by patrol and special forces. What lay beyond the barriers was precisely what agents had observed developing over months. A conveyor belt of pilfered elite automobiles midway through their ultimate conversion. Within the spaces, grounds were littered with car remnants and labelled parts. Range Rovers, Porsche Cayennes and Jaguars, all paired to skeletal structures and coded motors. Certain components bore dispatch tags, primed for cargo stuffing. Adjacent systems held transport forms and border filings connected to a series of sham export outfits. At that juncture, the syndicate had dispatched 11 cargo units overseas. 3 were halted via global partnerships, one at Seaforth Dock in Merseyside, another in Istanbul, and a third in Sharjah in the United Arab Emirates. Each held broken-down premium cars, hidden amid listed second-hand components. Foreign authorities returned the units, sealed, maintaining the proof untouched. Devices taken in the sweeps verified the team's synchronization. We'll discuss these essential findings shortly. In days, the core players were detained. Asif Hussain was captured in Oldham. His partners, Hadia Ali, Sajid Jangaria, Taub Hasnain and Ibra Shafi, were held in synchronized follow-ups throughout Greater Manchester. The detentions concluded one of the area's most lucrative and structured auto theft syndicates. Yet the extent of its influence was only starting to unfold. When agents ultimately acquired the syndicate's devices, the communications depicted a scenario extending well past pilfered vehicles. Amid discussions of cars and transport were frequent references to borrowings, incoming funds, and documents arranged. Initially, personnel thought it was encrypted talk, an additional veil of illicit jargon. But as economic analysts started following the ledgers, the reality proved far bolder. 2 entities emerged prominently: German Automotive 365 Limited and Merck Carriers Limited. Formerly, both posed as minor car dealers. Actually, neither had submitted fiscal statements. Still, they had obtained a total of £145,000 in COVID relief borrowings, state funds aimed at sustaining faltering enterprises during the outbreak. The German Automotive 365 entity lacked staff, receipts, or signs of genuine commerce. Yet, soon after requesting, £50,000 landed in its ledger. Agents later traced the cash to purchases of haulage trucks, facility leases in Chadderton and Radcliffe, and early cargo reservations for international transport. An additional £95,000 originated from a company tied to Ibra Shafi, the syndicate's money manager. He shifted the sums across various individual and corporate ledgers, obscuring sources and blending them with earnings from component sales via web ads. The records illustrated how relief borrowing funds were swiftly turned into working capital, acquiring tools, offsetting shipment expenses, and cleansing gains under the pretense of valid automotive dealings. When litigators displayed the proof in proceedings, the breadth of the trickery clarified. The borrowings weren't an ancillary plot. They formed the foundation of the activity, a monetary support that elevated theft to business. What amplified the impact was the schedule. While enterprises nationwide fought to endure, Hussein's web utilized public funds to grow. The chamber at Manchester Crown Court in January 2022 fell quiet as the full scope of the matter was presented. Litigators outlined how the syndicate had taken and disassembled over 90 vehicles, valued at roughly £3 million. Each automobile had been processed, labelled, and dispatched with regimented accuracy. The magistrate labelled the activity as massive in proportion. In his comments, Judge Anthony Cross KC denounced the group for abusing the state's COVID aid program to finance structured illegality. He mandated an official review into the approval of the relief borrowings, terming the procedure a disastrous lapse in supervision. The borrowings, he noted, were meant to safeguard jobs, not support the pilfering and shipment of UK automobiles. As penalties were issued, agents from GMP's syndicate unit emphasized that the effort continued. Data from the syndicate's devices suggested other workshops persisting under identical branding, a label recurring in conversations and bills. The firm, as Hussain, got the harshest penalty, 15 years behind bars. Hadia Ali received 11 years. Sajid Jangaria was awarded 10 years. Taub Hasnain was imprisoned for 5 years and 6 months, while Ibra Shafi got 5 years. Even with the primary actors removed, investigators suspected offshoots of the web remained functional, breaking down cars, filling cargo, and sustaining a profitable commerce beyond Manchester's limits. In March 2025, Interpol's Operation Safe Wheels conducted inspections across 12 West African nations, including Ghana, verifying automobiles against the pilfered vehicle registry. The outcomes affirmed what UK agents had observed for years. UK-registered premium cars were arriving in West Africa via ground and ocean, cleaned through forms, and passed to unaware purchasers. Ghanaian authorities issued public alerts that certain drivers might be operating imported stolen goods unknowingly. In other areas, the paths were equally evident. A Range Rover taken from Harrogate was located via its internal locator in Karachi, Pakistan, leading to an official call for cross-border aid. In that same location, a Bentley Mulsanne grabbed in London was confiscated from a residence in the Defence Housing Authority area. Altered tags were attached, but its identifier revealed the truth. In Southeast Asia, Operation Titanium connected UK financing scam thefts to dealerships in Bangkok. 30 elite automobiles worth about £6.5 million, including a Lamborghini Huracan Spider, Porsches and Mercedes, were reclaimed and returned to the UK. Nearer to base, the dispatch conduit flowed through UK harbours. Essex Police's Stolen Auto Intel Division stopped over 60 cargo units in 2023, reclaiming around 240 vehicles worth £13 million. Included were a Ferrari and Range Rover Sport owned by 2 Premier League players. Agents also discovered SUVs piled on wheels and hung by straps within crates. From Ghana to Karachi, Bangkok to Thorpe, the blueprint remains consistent. Pilfered in the UK, masked in documents, and packed for regions eager for luxury marques and rare components. But even after Hussain and his team were incarcerated, the tale persisted. Soon after, rumours began circulating anew, though with fresh faces at the helm. By early 2023, Greater Manchester Police started detecting recognisable signals in their reports. Cars vanishing in almost matching scenarios, taken per request, and processed in secluded business parks that seemed overly familiar. The talk indicated a comeback, one that agents would label the resurgence of the yard. This iteration dubbed itself 50. It wasn't a casual moniker, but an intentional nod to the jargon used by law enforcement, a mockery and declaration that the commerce never halted. The figures driving it were fresher, lesser known to authorities. We'll discuss them shortly. Throughout Greater Manchester, imitative thefts emerged.
premium SUVs removed from entrances, duplicated signal devices employed to access cars quietly, and identical storage spaces leased under aliases. As agents charted the actions, the layout aligned with Hussain's strategy nearly verbatim, from collection paths to the selection of business parks. GMP initiated a fresh probe, Operation Iceberg, aimed at breaking apart what appeared as a successor variant of the prior web. Monitoring groups invested months observing suspected facilities region-wide. The discoveries were unmistakable. 8 distinct business locations, each bearing varied firm titles, but all utilizing matching disassembly setups, scanning tools, and cargo reservation techniques once associated with the former team. This wasn't a revival from chance, it was inheritance. And as agents observed motors packed into trucks anew, one fact crystallized. Manchester's pilfered car dominion had adapted to outlast its collapse. Leading it was Asif Matadar, a person already familiar to police from prior organized auto theft cases. He lacked direct ties to Asif Hussain's imprisoned group, but agents spotted common associates, intersecting call logs, similar vendors, and the identical shipping handlers once linked to the firm. Matadar's setup emphasized spread over command. Each participant managed their own facility, supplying components and cars into a larger sequence. Shawaz Rahman ran one of the most active disassembly spots in Oldham, a space that processed vehicles shortly after theft. Rahman was under police watch for controlling behavior and assault charges, with probes concurrent to the theft matter. Agents later connected his setup to at least 30 pilfered cars. Imran Taj oversaw transport, shifting processed elements to shippers and waste dealers. Jean Ali and Mohammed Iran dealt with the technical aspects, extracting locators, modifying frame codes, and bundling motors for dispatch. Their facilities operated into the late hours, replicating the same manufacturing exactness witnessed years prior under Hussain's syndicate. Adam Elwood, among the junior members, was known for boldness. While others confined to theft commerce, he expanded, channeling earnings into narcotics distribution and reckless operation violations, employing pilfered cars as concealment for hauls and escapes. His profile surfaced often in subsequent GMP summaries as a vital bridge between auto illegality and the city's grassroots drug webs. Directing funds and organization was James Hopkinson, whose links spanned multiple salvage firms in Upper Manchester. His ledgers connected the group's monetary path to earlier cleansing methods from the firm. Collectively, these 7 individuals reconstructed the framework that once controlled Manchester's pilfered car market, not as one depot, but as a web of facilities. By mid-2024, extended covert monitoring ensued, with plainclothes units tracking business parks from early light to far past dusk. Aerial devices proved among the division's top assets, silently floating over targeted facilities, recording visuals of cars arriving late and departing barren by dawn. Investigators also placed hidden tracking units on at-risk vehicles, premium SUVs and sedans highlighted by coverage providers and owners. Within hours of theft, many such cars were traced straight to the facilities under surveillance. Internally, the indicators were clear. Crime scene groups later verified that the specialized breakdown equipment found in sweeps, hydraulic expanders, digital recoders, and identifier removers matched the type and usage marks of those taken from the original firm operations years before. Economic agents followed funds from modest workshops in Manchester to consistent purchases in the UAE and Eastern Europe, echoing the prior dispatch paths of Hussain's web. Transfers were hidden via credible accounts, auto elements, enhancement kits, transport charges. But when border officials in those areas checked serials, the links returned to pilfered UK automobiles. Acknowledging the range, GMP collaborated with the National Vehicle Crime Intelligence Service and Border Force to oversee departing cargo units. Data exchange reached harbours in Essex, Merseyside, and the Midlands. There, Border Stats confirmed the concern. Shipment reservations had restarted, with car elements documented under false claims for reused mechanical goods. The validation provided all agents required. This round, police aimed to terminate it prior to another wave of pilfered cars vanishing abroad. At first light on a frosty morning in October 2024, Greater Manchester Police executed their largest autocrime action in years. Following months of data collection under Operation Iceberg, 8 concurrent searches were carried out across Oldham, Stockport, Radcliffe, and Wigan. Just past 5 a.m., personnel advanced. Special units entered the initial locations under order, supported by highway enforcement and the regional syndicate division. Inside, they encountered the proof accumulated over months. Lines of partially processed premium cars, bare interiors, crated motors, and duplicated digital units arranged on platforms. Over 90 vehicles or processed sets were reclaimed from all sites. Records indicated motors and drivetrains encased in film, labelled with endpoint codes for Turkey, the UAE, and West Africa. Close by, systems contained dispatch outlines listing elements. As crime scene groups inventoried components and frame pieces, investigators confiscated devices, forms, and portables holding the electronic framework of the web. By noon, detentions proceeded throughout Greater Manchester. Asif Shawaz Rahman, Imran Taj, Zeen Ali, Adam Elwood, Mohammed Iran, and James Hopkinson were all held on charges of plotting to pilfer, manage, and ship stolen items. Each was escorted to dedicated holding areas for interrogation, while groups persisted with examinations overnight. What started as faint echoes of past practices had escalated to a comprehensive shutdown. The 50 Web, the follow-up era of Manchester's car theft dominion, was apprehended mid-process as their cargo prepared for shipment. In October 2024, the matter revisited Manchester Crown Court, where extended evidence, monitoring videos, and money tracking were fully detailed. The accused were seated together as litigators outlined the compelling proof. Judge Neil Usher informed the chamber that the revelations depicted a thoroughly expert and structured venture, merging deceit, shipment illegality, and detailed strategy. As penalties commenced, the degree of personal participation clarified. Adam Elwood got 6 years, accounting for his extra guilty findings on narcotics charges and hazardous operation. Shawaz Rahman was imprisoned for 4 years 9 months. Imran Taj received 4 years. Zeen Ali was penalised with 3 years 9 months. Asif got 3 years 6 months. Mohammed Iran received 3 years. And James Hopkinson was given 8 months deferred for 18 months. Overall, the group encountered a total of 25 years in custody. What are your views on the incidents and the penalties? Share your opinions in the comments section. We'd appreciate hearing your perspective. And if this analysis proved helpful, be sure to thumbs up the video, join the channel, and activate alerts to catch the upcoming installment of Truth Unraveled.